Thank you everyone for joining us today for Scanco's webinar, Accelerate Your AR Process, Harnessing the Power of i2PAY. So a little bit about us. I'm Paul Carrero. I'm a product sales specialist here at Scanco, primarily work with our procurement, payments, and nonprofit products. And I'm joined today by Ron Cass, who is our Vice President of e-commerce. So a little bit about Scanco if you're not completely familiar with us. A little bit of background, we have been a leading provider for supply chain automation software for over 30 years. Over this time, our solutions have delivered unequaled efficiency and visibility for both manufacturers and distributors worldwide. Our solutions range from simple barcoding to complex distribution and manufacturing operations, and now, as you'll see, payments. Our goal is to lead the industry with our innovation and provide top-tier, fully integrated automation specifically for your ERP system. Thousands of companies already trust us with their supply chain challenges, and we're happy to provide them with cutting-edge solutions. So what is invoice to payment? Invoice to payment is Scanco's fully integrated accounts receivable payment platform, allowing for automated delivery of invoices to customers, automation of cash receipts and deposit entries, all requiring no difficult or time-consuming customizations. Part of the invoice to payment platform is a cloud-based payment portal with design and management tools to configure the look and feel of emails, invoices, and your payment portal. So why invoice to payment? Keeping in line with Scanco's goals, we saw new ways that we could help our customers continue to automate their supply chain needs. One of the most critical pieces to an organization is reducing how long it takes to get paid and maintain visibility every step of the way. Invoice to payment is built to help your organization reduce the time to cash, eliminate manual monthly statement entry and reconciliation, and increase efficiency of your AR process. Lastly, existing Scanco customers can utilize i2PAY at no additional cost. I'll turn it over to Ron to kind of talk through some of the features and then lead us into a demo.
Thanks, Paul. So what we're going to see today from the i2PAY product set is invoice generation from within Sage 100 and automated email of that invoice to the customer. Once that customer receives the invoice, they're going to be taken to an online payment form that'll show your company's design and branding. One of the features is for a great payer experience. So they see your branding, your messaging. We're just a part of your relationship with your customer, and we want your brand and your relationship to come through there. Support for credit card and ACH or each electronic check payments in that form. We'll see an example of that. Then online tracking of emails and payments on a donor portal, web-based application that allows you to track the emails that have been sent out from invoice to pay, to track payments, to resend invoices if necessary, and reporting. And then finally, we'll see automated cash entry generation, cash receipt entry generation back in Sage, corresponding to the nightly deposits from those invoice to payment payments. So let's see. Paul, if you could make me the presenter, I can share my screen. Great, so let's get started. So within Sage, for our customer data agents, purveyor of fine data to the world, we're going to go through a simple invoice process. So I'm going to create a new invoice. Take the first default out of the batch numbers, ditto get the next default invoice, and we're going to send that off to our friends at American Business Futures. And we'll just add some color to that invoice that we'll see in a moment. All right, so we've created our invoice. Now, at the end of the day or on cycle, we would be printing a batch of them. I'm going to go ahead and do that by posting the sales journal. And we only have one invoice in our batch, but of course that could be multiple invoices, some being printed, some not being printed, and sent automatically to invoice to payment. One thing I want to highlight here, I'll come back to that invoice in a second. When we get done posting everything, great. All right. Let's take one more invoice just to show that feature. I didn't point this out before, but once I've selected a company here, we have the invoice to payment features highlighted for us, allowing us to say, yes, this is to be sent via email to our customer. And the email used can either be the primary contact on the company account, or we can use one specific to the email and provide it right here. So if you have a separate contact that's not your default contact on a company that should be receiving invoices, you can input them here. All right, so if I go to my email now, I should see, let's see, it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm going to go to one I've done previously, set up previously. So in my inbox, shrink this. In my inbox, we see I've received the receipt, the invoice by email. It's come from the data agents company, from an email at data agents. So again, we're kind of taking Scanco out of the loop here, and the relationship between you and your customer is your relationship. All right, it's read an invoice back out to me. I'm going to click Pay Now, and this is going to take me to my payment form once we validate the link through our antivirus protection. And you'll see that we're reading the invoice back to them. And note that this is going to be live data. So when we pull up the invoice to payment form, we're going back to Sage using our Scanco Connect technology, pulling the most recent data about that invoice. So if any payments have been made, if any credits have been issued, we'll know that this total is correct, and that would prevent over or underpayment. Now, we can allow the customer to make a partial payment, but in this case, we're going to accept the total on this invoice. And we have a required field here to acknowledge that the customer is paying the credit card fee. This is an option on invoice to payment. You can set up the forms so that they will pay the fee automatically. They can be prompted to pay the fee or not at all. Now, just for our demo example, I'm going to put in a simple demo credit card here just to get a successful transaction and a receipt. And you'll notice there's no more data entry necessary here. We've pulled all the information from the company record in Sage and the contact record in Sage. No need to bother the customer with repetitive information that they have to enter that we already know. So I'm going to hit submit. That's going to generate a confirmation page. Again, we're reading the invoice back out to them, reading the total they've paid back out to them, letting them know how their card is being, how their payment is being made by card in this case, and providing contact information on the screen so if they have any follow-up questions, they know who to reach out to. Now, back in my email inbox, I've also been emailed a copy of that receipt. Same content, nothing special here really, but we'll show how this can be customized for you to have your branding on it. Your logo happens to be on the receipt by default, but if you want to change fonts, change colors, add additional information, thanking the customer, for example, you can do that. All right. We're going to show that some of that actually on the merchant portal, your portal, online portal into Invoice to Pay. So I'm going to log in as the user at Data Agents. And from this portal, I've got a view of our invoice and payment history. There we go. I've got the information right in front of me of declined payments. So I know if I have to reach out to any of my customers that are having any issues inputting data or have any issues with their credit cards or ACH payment methods. Also, I can track emails. So emails that haven't been opened are emails that I may want to resend. Invoice to payment tracks, oh, that's one that actually got paid, pardon. Invoice to Pay automatically tracks invoices that are, invoice emails that are bounced, that are delivered, and when they are opened. So we know that this invoice has not been opened yet. I can resend that email. I can send a copy to me just to see if there's anything wrong with the content of it, etc. And then I've got access to the summary data for the most recent transactions that have come through. And there are more detailed reports for all those transactions and deposits from invoice to payment. There are also usable tools for configuring the receipts and configuring that payment form. So I go in there. I've got simple online editing tools to change the content of that confirmation page that they will see after an invoice payment. You can see use of merge tags, which are supported by the platform for personalization and easy customization. As well as I've got a full-blown drag and drop designer tool for my invoice and my receipt. So there are tools in your hands that enable you to configure the experience that you want your customer to have in invoice to payment. All right, coming back to Sage, do not save changes on that one. At the end of the night, on a daily basis, and let me run one right now, we're going to simulate the actual deposit overnight. So on a nightly basis, all of the credit card proceeds are deposited to your bank account net of fees. So in contrast to a standard payment processor, we're not depositing gross amounts and withdrawing fees on a monthly basis. And we're also not including any additional fees like a monthly statement fee or a monthly PCI fee or anything like that. On a nightly basis, the deposit to your account is net of fees. So that gives us the opportunity to create an accurate cash receipt entry that will correspond to that deposit to your bank account. And that should have happened just now. So if I go to my, not cash receipts entry, you'll see we have an entry in cash receipts journal. Now I've run more than one transaction today, so that has multiple invoices payments in the deposit. But let's take a look at that. You can see that I've got, there we go, where's my, you can see that I've got my deposits corresponding to my invoices, the invoice to pay. And then we'll also have a line item in here for the fees that were deducted from that deposit, the sum of which will net out to your nightly bank deposit. And that's the span of the demo for invoice to payment. It's very simple, easy to use system. We'll talk about actually, let's go back to the slides, Paul, if you will. I think I have to stop my sharing, right?
Yep.
There we go, back to you for presenter. Just to get a recap of what we saw there. So we showed the invoice generation automatically from within Sage 100 using the business processes that you adhere to today. Customer being able to go to an online form that's pre-populated with the latest copy of that invoice information, make a payment either using credit card or ACH. We showed you the merchant portal, your portal online for tracking whether emails are being received and additionally tracking payments and pulling down reports. And then finally, that round trip back into Sage with that cash receipt entry created that corresponds to our nightly deposit with the gross invoice payments less fees. So I want to talk about adoption for a second. Easy to use, how easy is it to get put in place? So prerequisites are really a base Sage installation of 2022 or later. We don't require paperless Office to do the email generation in invoice to payment. Very few staff are involved. We need a CFO to approve underwriting for a credit card account associated with the invoice to payment account. Your IT admin will be required to do some of the IT setup, DNS entries to be specific, to get email coming from invoice to payment under your email domain. And then finally, your AR super user who will be doing Sage, installing modules and an agent on the Sage server if you're not already using our Scanco Connect tools. As far as testing goes, we can run from test companies. If you've got a Sage test company, that's fine. You saw that we use a test credit card today, so we don't have to actually charge cards to see the process work. And if you have a separate Sage installation entirely for a sandbox, we can connect to that. A little more complicated and will require a little more of our support, but it's a great way to completely isolate the experience from your Sage installation before going live. And speaking of going live and adoption, Scanco itself is a user of invoice to payment. All of our online payments are using invoice to payment. If you're paying your Scanco license fee online, you're an invoice to payment customer right now. Paul, back to you.
Awesome, thank you, Ron. And we did have a couple questions come through, so I don't want to kind of go through a few of those. One of them we did get, I think you may have answered this on that last slide, was if we leverage paperless office for this or if that's required. Obviously that would be a no. We do not need paperless office set up in order for this to function properly. Another question we have here is, will there be other fees that we'll see from our processor each month like we do currently?
No, the only fees you'll see from invoice to payment are those nightly fees that correspond to the gross amounts from your deposit. There are no monthly account management fees. There are no monthly statement fees. None of the sort of nuisance or junk fees that you might be familiar paying with a payment processor.
Perfect. And our last question here that we have from someone is, we have a customer who we do not want to pass those fees on to, but we have flexibility in the platform to kind of do that.
Yeah, at a global level, you can set the form to prompt for adoption of the fees, to require them, which was the scenario that we went through today, or not to add the fees to the invoice amount at all. And that can also be configured on a customer basis or an invoice basis.
Great. So, one other point that I think you mentioned on that last slide was just that, for existing Scanco customers, this is available to them today. So if you are a Scanco customer, then we'd be happy to have a conversation and go through this in more detail, answer any other questions that you have, and make sure that this is a good fit for you. Don't have any other questions, so I'll go ahead and end the recording. Appreciate everybody for their time, and have a good rest of your week.
Thanks very much, everyone.